Facts about Hermit Kingdom in North Korea, where the average person is struggling to exist in a society that has made it illegal for the majority of people to earn a living wage and has restricted the importation of essential foods in the aftermath of COVID. Starvation and execution are continuous dangers. The majority of outsiders are mostly ignorant of what actually occurs within the notoriously secretive pariah state. What little we do know is based on accounts from professionals, ex-servicemen, and individuals who have risked their lives to share their terrifying tales. Check out the 29 startling facts about daily life in North Korea, from black market transactions to state-approved haircuts. All figures are expressed in US dollar. The year 2023 is still an awfully long way off in North Korea. The regime ditched the Gregorian calendar in 1997 and replaced it with the Juche calendar, which is based on Kim Il-sung's date of birth of 5 April 1912. In North Korea it's currently year 112. According to its ranking on Transparency International's 2022 Corruption Perceptions Index, North Korea is now the 6th most corrupt nation on Earth. With Haiti and Libya, it is tied for 6th place. North Korea is now second only to war-torn Somalia, an improvement from 2016, but it still demonstrates that the country has a long way to go before it can be deemed clean. The most recent estimates from the CIA indicate that North Korea's GDP per capita is just $1,700, despite the fact that the country's overall GDP is estimated to be $19 billion. That is the lowest rate outside of Africa and one of the lowest in the whole globe. In actuality, most North Koreans are impoverished. A startling 59% of the world's population, or people, labor in agriculture, where pay can be as low as $1 to $2 per month. According to Statista's most recent statistics, North Korea is the nation that spends the most on military, at almost 24% of its GDP. With 10.9%, Oman spends the second highest proportion in the globe, which is more than twice as much. Showing that Kim Jong-un cares more about flexing his military might than feeding his people, authorities have just described a failed spy satellite launch last month as the country's most serious shortcoming this year. Never mind the devastating famine that's causing whole families to die inside their homes. North Korean society is based on a strict class system known as songbun, which classifies every citizen from birth according to the status of their father. There are 5 key social statuses: special, nucleus, basic, complex, and hostile. These are divided into around 50 subclassifications, with a citizen's status determining the type of job they will be allocated and where they can live as an adult. Only those lucky enough to enjoy special or nucleus status are allowed to live in the capital city of Pyongyang, which has roughly 10% of the country's population. The rest are effectively confined to the countryside, where conditions can be tough and provisions increasingly scarce. Under North Korean law, anyone who sells, buys or rents a house can be sentenced to years of hard labor. People living in the same districts are allowed to swap homes. However, illegal property sales are common among the elite who can often bribe their way out of trouble should they get caught. This picture shows residents in the North Wongha province being led to new accommodation by members of the military, after their homes were damaged by flooding in the summer of 2020. Pyonghanan, the Mansudae district in Pyongyang, is a hotspot for upscale apartments in soaring high-rises, offering luxuries such as 24-hour electricity and working lifts. The apartments are traded illegally among the elite for prices as much as $250,000. Mansudae may feature its fair share of gleaming towers, but Pyongyang's most prominent building, the 105-story Rugong Hotel, pictured, is still a work in progress. Construction began way back in 1987 and has been halted several times due to lack of funds. In 2018, an LED display screen was fitted to the exterior for showing propaganda films. making this colossal mega-project, which was supposed to house 3,000 hotel rooms and 7 restaurants, not much more than a big TV. It reportedly cost around $750 million to build, approximately 2% of North Korea's GDP at the time. People with acceptable songbun have access to Pyongyang's growing number of high-end black market stores, which sell everything from imported electricals to luxury foods. For the most part, these stores are tolerated by the regime. According to a report by Reuters in 2015, black market goods have become so ubiquitous that the government must reflect market realities when driving economic reform or risk losing its grip on power. North Korea's privileged classes have constant access to fine food and get to dine out at Pyongyang top eateries. Meanwhile, the rest of the population get by on extremely meager rations. In 2019, the government cut daily food rations to just 10 ounces per person a day, while an investigation by the UN World Food Programme found that poorer families eat protein just a few times a year. According to the BBC, which has been communicating in secret with 3 North Koreans, food shortages have reached catastrophic levels. An estimated 40% of the population is malnourished. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, finding enough to eat has become even harder. All 3 of the citizens interviewed by the BBC said they know families that have starved to death. As well as its enormous statues of the 3 Kims, the North Korean regime likes to supersize its stadia. Encompassing 51 acres, Pyongyang's Runggrado 1st of May Stadium was the largest in the world by seating capacity when it opened in 1989. Recent renovation work is expected to have reduced the stadium's actual capacity from its official figure of 150,000 seats. Smartphone use has increased among the North Korean elite, with the nation recording around 6 million mobile phone subscribers in 2020. Calls and texts are of course strictly monitored, and international calls are well and truly blocked. To get around the international call block, many North Koreans use handsets and SIM cards smuggled in from China. Costing around $500 in bribes to border guards, these cards can pick up Chinese mobile networks, but the risks are high. Possession of these devices is illegal and could land the user a stint of hard labor in a prison camp. According to the BBC report, a recent crackdown means owning a Chinese phone has become even more dangerous. People are now urged to turn themselves in during weekly community meetings, with one of the BBC's contacts claiming they know someone who was sent to a re-education prison for several years after being caught talking to someone in China. North Korea's internet is more like a basic company intranet with just 5,500 websites, according to reports. All foreign sites are banned. Computers are only available to select elite citizens, and even their activity is closely monitored. State-sanctioned websites include Air Koryo, the country's airline. Users can also access Naenara, which is a propaganda web portal that became the nation's very first website when it was launched in 1996. North Korea's internet has previously been targeted by a lone American hacker, known as P4X. The hacker succeeded in overwhelming the system by flooding it with artificial traffic in revenge for a cyber attack he suffered in 2021, believed to have been carried out by North Korean spies. The country's central bank, Koryo Bank, issues a limited number of payment cards. These include the Naerae, which is used by a minority of the elite for foreign currency transactions, and one very basic credit card that's only accepted in select Pyongyang department stores. The vast majority of people use cash, with many stores happy to accept US dollars. Despite the fact that most North Koreans rely on cash, ATMs are few and far between. In fact, Two of the only ATMs in the country can be found at Sunan International Airport in Pyongyang, but the machines are principally designed to serve tourists and wealthy Chinese. Fashion styles tend to be conformist in North Korea, especially in Pyongyang. However, people living in the city of Chongjin have had access to trendier items of clothing that are smuggled in by boat from Japan. The local elite in Chongjin have even been known to sport skinny jeans. All of that changed in 2021 when Kim Jong-un cracked down on symbols of a capitalist lifestyle. According to reports, the leader has outlawed skinny jeans, nose and lip piercings, and branded t-shirts. It's not just your clothing that will have the fashion police knocking at your door in North Korea. Anything that deviates from the 28 state-sanctioned hairstyles is a no-go. There have been mixed reports about the exact hairstyle rules for men, with some Western media outlets reporting that they're obliged to copy Kim Jong-un's iconic undercut, while others have claimed that it's strictly illegal to do so. Women have slightly more choice, with up to 18 haircuts to pick from. However, married women must keep their hair short. Due to incredibly low wages throughout the country, only the upper echelons of society can afford to own a car. Many Pyongyang residents cycle as their main means of transport, so it's no wonder that imported Chinese battery-powered bikes are one of the latest must-haves. Outside of the capital city, North Korea's road network is mostly made up of dusty dirt tracks. According to the CIA World Factbook, out of a total of 15,880 miles of roads, only 450 miles are properly asphalted. As many as 3.5 million North Koreans are estimated to have died during the major famine that hit the country in the 1990s. And now the economist Peter Ward, who studies North Korea, has said the accounts published by the BBC are very concerning. It's all well and good to say you've heard about people starving to death, he says, but when you actually know people in your immediate vicinity who are starving, this implies the food situation is very serious, more serious than we realize. In his New Year's speech last year, Kim Jong-un described the ongoing food shortages in North Korea as a great life or death struggle, and said his main goal for 2022 was economic development. A propaganda film showed the leader looking remarkably slim and claimed he's completely withered away with worry for his people, but the reports coming out of North Korea paint a very different story and suggest economic development was far from the agenda last year. Research from Sungkyunkwan University in Seoul shows that years of malnutrition have had an impact on the height of the average North Korean, who is 1.2 to 3.1 inches, 3 to 8 centimeters, shorter than the typical South Korean. The World Food Program has said that 1 in every 3 children remains chronically malnourished. North Korea is actually one of the world's biggest fruit producers, with the most recent statistics showing the country produces 779,490 metric tons of apples a year. However, the dictatorship has historically chosen to export most of the produce rather than feed its hungry residents. In 2019, North Korea exported $2.19 million worth of vegetable products and $1.7 million of other food goods, according to data from the Observatory of Economic Complexity, OEC. Hate your job? Spare a thought for the North Korean workforce. Most citizens are assigned a role when they leave high school that they are stuck with for life, unless they can scrape together money to bribe an official. The majority of the population is condemned to a life of farming, while teaching, factory work and hairdressing are common professions in the cities. Because male careers are typically more regimented, many men rely on their wives' income to survive. Often, this income will come from selling smuggled goods such as medicine, fruit or cigarettes, but according to Ji Yin, not her real name, a shop worker who used to steal produce to sell at markets for extra money, this is becoming increasingly hard. In her report to the BBC, Yin said the authorities have made it impossible to have a side hustle, and her bags are now searched as nobody can afford to lose anything. The vast majority of North Koreans take home an absolute pittance in wages. Even if they can moonlight in their spare time, they can only expect to earn an extra $12 a month or so. According to Salary Explorer, the average salary bracket starts at 49,100 KPW a month, the equivalent of around $55. However, as North Korea doesn't share financial information and most people get paid in cash, this figure is likely to be inaccurate. As mentioned earlier, farmers reportedly earn just $1 to $2 on a monthly basis. Human Rights Watch and the South Korean government estimate that between 150,000 and 200,000 North Koreans live in prison camps where conditions are extremely harsh, especially for those convicted of political dissent. Pictured is a Siberian labor camp in North Korea's Gulag system. Under North Korea's 3 generations of punishment law, the entire extended family of a person who's perpetrated a crime can be imprisoned: kids, aunts, cousins, the lot along with the subsequent 2 generations. Amnesty International has reported that as many as 40% of prison camp detainees die from malnutrition while engaged in hard labor.